We all kind of know that universities can be a huge force for good in their communities, right? They're what people call anchor institutions. These big, stable organizations that are just deeply rooted in a place. But when a university does something good, how do we actually measure the value of it? Especially for the stuff that doesn't have a neat and tidy price tag. Well, let's get into it.
Just think about it this way. How much is a community garden at a local school really worth? I mean, sure, you could add up the cost of the soil, the seeds, all the tools, but what about the value of kids learning about nature, or the community bonds that get stronger, or just the simple joy of having a beautiful green space? That's the real challenge.
And that question right there leads us directly to what researchers call the anchor institution problem.
So, what is an anchor institution? Basically, it's a large, stable organization, think a university or a hospital, that's physically planted in a community. It's not packing up and leaving, you know? Its health is totally tangled up with the health of the community all around it. They're absolutely critical for both the economy and just the social vibe of a place. But here is the problem. Researchers point out that when we try to measure a university's impact, we tend to get hyper-focused on the things we can easily count. And that focus, to quote the research, is less than ideal for evaluating the valuable process of public engagement itself, the messy co-creation of knowledge, and the relationships built. In other words, our old measuring sticks are missing the most important, most human parts of the story. So, if the old tools just aren't cutting it, what are we supposed to do? Well, let's take a look at a brand new approach that was piloted by researchers over at Queen's University Belfast. Okay, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's called Socially Modified Economic Valuation, or just SMEV for short. And it's a method that's specifically designed to capture both that straightforward economic value and that much harder to pin down social value. Let's use an analogy to make this super clear. Think about a home-cooked meal. Its basic economic value, that's just the cost of the groceries. Super simple. And in the same way, for a university project, the economic value is just the cost of the staff's time and whatever materials they used. But we all know that's not the real value of the meal, is it? The social value, that's the love, the time, the joy of making it and sharing it with people. That's the part that actually matters. And for the university project, that social value is all about how it helps the community, how it builds trust, and how it gets people working together. SMEV is built to finally put a number on all that extra good stuff. So this SMEV method is really just a two-step process. First, you figure out that base economic value. And then, and this is the magic part, you apply what are called social weights to that number. Okay, so let's break down step one, calculating the economic value. A lot of the time, what a university gives to its community is free. So how on earth do you put a price on that? Well, you use a clever technique called shadow pricing. It's basically a way to estimate the value of things that don't have a price tag, like a professor volunteering their time or a free workshop for a neighborhood group. You just ask, okay, if you had to pay for this on the open market, what would it have cost? All right, we've got our base economic number. Now for the really cool, innovative part, adding the social weights. So what are these social weights? They're not just random numbers. They're actually multipliers that are based on how well a project lines up with specific goals. Goals that are often decided on with community members themselves. We're talking about things like, does this project actually solve a problem the community said it had? Does it help out a disadvantaged area? Did the community help create it? Each of these things adds weight, and that weight boosts the project's final value. This all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work? Let's look at 3 real-world examples from that pilot study at Queen's University Belfast. Hey, remember our school garden? The pilot study looked at a real project just like it. Using that shadow pricing for stuff like staff time and their expertise, the researchers calculated its base economic value at just a little over £7,600. But then they applied the social weights. Because the project directly solved a community need, because it helped a disadvantaged area, and because it lined up with what the university wanted to do, its value skyrocketed. The final socially modified value was over £13,000. Now that is a much more honest picture of its real impact. Check out this next one. The university helped build a data tool for a local community group. The economic value of all the staff time and resources was about £15,000, but its social value, it nearly doubled to almost £30,000. Why? Because it directly empowered that local group, and they built it together, side by side.
Okay, this last example is maybe the most striking of all. It's the cost of one person, a community liaison officer, someone whose entire job is to be a bridge between the university and the community. The economic cost was just over £100,000. But because this one role hit almost every single social priority, building relationships, co-creating, helping the community, its social value is estimated at over £213,000, more than double the cost. Wow.
So why does any of this matter? Well, for one, this method gives you hard evidence for all those soft benefits we always knew were there, like building trust. It helps make the case for funding community work that might otherwise get cut. It lets an organization actually compare the social impact of, say, an arts program versus a science workshop. And maybe most importantly, because it's customizable, it gives the community a real voice in deciding what's actually valuable to them.
You know, this whole idea gives us a powerful new lens, and it leaves us with this huge, fascinating question. If we can finally put a credible price on the good a university does, what other priceless, supposedly unmeasurable things in our society could we finally start to see, and more importantly, to value for what they're truly worth?